Prof, because when Professor YF is there, who are?
I'm sure YF would not want to answer to that.
Why not? He's a prof, whether emeritus or what. Ndi Onyuke was not lecturing university before she was made a prof.
Very soon, all the the what do they call those professor? What's it called now? Honorary. They will start rolling in.
For me, YF is a professor.
That's right. No doubt.
At least the HRPR has conferred on him that one.
That's right. So everyone, one favor you can do us is to share the link to join this call. I mean, across your channels, your sphere of influence, and remind persons to join. And then we would start. This is already 2 minutes over the hour. You're welcome if you're joining us for the first time. If you're not a member of HRPL, this is our first learning series for the year. And we would welcome you. If you're an HR professional, I'm sure you would get a link to join the community before the end of today. In another 3 minutes, we will start in earnest. There it is. It's quite a day. Okay, without further ado, I would like us to start immediately, and I look forward to us inviting more of our friends to join this call. If you're joining us for the first time or you're just joining this call, it is our Leverage Series 1.0 for the year 2023. And today we're going to be talking about practical planning and execution for exceptional results. My name is Faith Akintunde, and proud to be one of the members of the Board of Trustees of the HR Professional Leverage. Today, we're going to be having two exceptional professors in the industry. And interestingly, they are both namesakes. There's Yemi Faseun and there's Adeyemi Ajayi today. Like I said to you, for those of us that are not speaking to us, please, as you join, do mute your microphone. Happy to also announce that we are live streaming on YouTube. As soon as this room fills up, people can always go to the YouTube channel to join this call. The only challenge over there is you might not be able to participate directly, but we can always pick up your chats as we go along. Without wasting time, I'll take our first speaker, who is Adeyemi Ajayi. A brief about Adeyemi Ajayi. I'll put that up shortly. Yemi is one of the board of trustee members in HR Professional Leverage and is a renowned HR professional in the industry. Is if you look at his profile, there's so much to say about Yemi, but I would share a few of details about Yemi Ajayi. Adeyemi Ajayi is a versatile professional who has consistently delivered value across various value chains. I'm sure he's a professional in the HR industry. He's a risk analyst and a business analyst, a data science professional, an enterprise risk management professional. And if you're not talking to us, please could you mute your mic? Mic if you're not talking to us. Yemi is a top 150 global HR influencer. Is also rated top 8 African HR thought leader as of 2020. Salisbury named him one of the senior, respected HR professionals in 2021. He was a winner of an HR award on that platform. Yemi is a member of a few professional bodies, which includes the ACCA, that's the Association of Chartered Accountants, Global Association of Risk Professionals in the US, is also a member of the International Association of Facilitators, a series of professional associations that Yemi belongs to, and he's got experience across HR, like I mentioned, and in the risk management space. He has been a researcher for the pension industry for over 10 years. He is a researcher, a facilitator, a trainer, a risk manager, a corporate governance expert, and a management consultant. Also a writer. So you can tell that there's so much that Yemi is loaded with, and I'm sure it would speak to us from those various perspectives as we talk about practical planning for exceptional results in 2023. Welcome with me, Adeyemi Ajayi, Professor.
Thank you so much, Faith. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the introduction. Good evening, Yemi Faseun, my senior colleague and a co-panelist on this conversation. If
good
you
evening,
permit
Yemi.
me, yes, sir. Good evening, Egbon.
Wow.
If you permit me to just share my video a little bit. I don't know if I'm clear or visible. Okay.
You're visible, and we like it.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry that I'm not wearing my glasses. Perhaps you don't see me well, or maybe I should wear it. And so thank you very much. I just have to talk through. I'm using my iPad. I attempted to power my system, but I don't know what went wrong. I'm going to share the slide of this conversation with you so that at least you have, I have it up there so I can share it. So I'll be talking on my own part on practical planning and execution for exceptional results. I'll be speaking from the perspective of an individual, and I'll be starting by asking questions, which I believe I'll be answering myself about practical planning and execution. One of the things that we all do at the beginning of the year is to plan, but most times we don't execute. I was reading a certain research document when I was working on this document, on this presentation. At a point, it was a presentation by McKinsey. I'll go back to it and share that a lot of times, even organizations have plans. Execution is a major thing. You can have beautiful plans laid out. But before we get to the point of talking about planning, something must have led us into planning. And that is, we must have defined goals we want to achieve. Without things we want to achieve, you may not have plan in place, because the question is, what are you really planning for? One of the basic things we should put at the back of our mind before any plan is that we have a focus, we have a goal, we have something we want to achieve at the end of the line, at the end of the spectrum. We have something that we practically are hoping to achieve, to take stock of at the end of a cycle. Okay. Now, there are so many things that we should consider when planning. I've mentioned one, we should have defined goals. What are your goals, your short-term goals, your long-term goals. Goals are not the same as objectives. They are different. Okay, they're not the same. Objectives are building blocks to achieving your goal, your ultimate goal. So goals are the wider or the bigger picture, and the objectives are the micro component. But again, planning are like the actions you need to take step by step to achieve what you want to achieve, at the end of the day. But the question is, how do we practically plan? Yeah. In planning, you need to assess your environment first. You need to carry out assessment of where you are coming from. Unfortunately, we don't carry out the retrospective review of, the past events. The review of whatever we've done, in some period in the past, should be reviewed to give us an idea of how better we should plan. I'll give you a case in point. In the year 2021, we had a plan, a few of myself with a friend of mine, to go into a particular space. So the plan was to commence this, to get seed funding. I'm also a business mentor with Founders Institute. So that gave me the opportunity to have some leverages within the investment space. So we have a plan that this is what we want to achieve. But the truth is, these plans were not well articulated. Why? Because we could not even analyze where we were coming from. So what am I trying to say is, in planning, apart from having your goal, you should also carry out retrospective review of where you are coming from, and also of the current situation. That is what brings also into play the use of so many analytical tools, strategic analytical tools like SWOT or pestle analysis. If I'm doing a plan, for example, what are the things I should look at? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What are the opportunities that I have? And what are the threats that I have? And of course, you also need to have a predictive mindset. Predictive mindset using data, also analyzing your economic environment, looking at how you can technically be more accurate in your planning. Because planning is, is a futuristic thing. So if planning is a futuristic thing, nobody can predict the future. But you would be more accurate if you put so many factors into play. And I'll also practically share this with you so that, we work with time. Now, in this same space, I said we wanted to go into tech space. We did not look at where we were coming from. We did not look at the environment. We did not look at our resources. And sitting down with my partners, we asked ourselves question, let us carry out an analysis of whatever we want to do and have a step-by-step plan in a sequential order, which we did not do earlier, okay? So the first thing we did was, can we have a business plan in place, to achieve this thing we want to achieve? And the business plan was thoroughly done. Apart from the business plan being thoroughly done, the next phase is, how do we commence operations? Okay, and that was a bit of challenge. It was skeletal. We went into a bit of operation. There were teething problems. Then the next phase is, how do we get funding, which was a very difficult phase as well. Now, how do we also expand? So the plan has to be in phases. Practically, if you want to achieve exceptional results, you need to, I need to change my passwords. But sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
okay,
we can.
Sorry. Yeah, is a
Yes, we
common
can hear
problem.
you.
It's a common problem in Nigeria, so forgive me for the okay, sorry. Okay, I'm back. Okay, sorry, my power just gone off, so I can't stand up. So forgive me. But can you still see my face?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you very much. So if you want to really achieve exceptional results, you must put your plans in phases. Okay, phase 1, what do you want to achieve? Phase 2, what do you want to achieve? Phase 3, what do you want to achieve? All the way down. Okay, if you also want to achieve results in terms of planning and execution, you must handle whatever you are handling like you're handling a project. You must have a project mindset. A project mindset will help you walk through and also see how you cross each hurdle. And I want to advise that you can have a mindset of things like gamification, just like you're playing game. Okay, that helps you at each point. I don't know, I love playing so many puzzle games and mentally stimulating. It helps you to know at which stage you're going to, achieve quite a lot. Now, let me move away from theory and come to practical. First, it's not easy to plan. And what I mean by it's not easy to plan is planning can take longer time. It can consume more time. It can consume more energy. And also, planning determines the level of execution. So at every point when you are planning, you need to put something in mind. What are those factors that can prevent you from achieving, from executing? And those are the factors we technically call the risk factors. Okay, if you consider the risk factors in your planning, you also prepare against those risk factors. Let me also say there are different kinds of planning that you can have. You can have your career plan, you can have your marital plan, you can have your financial plan, you can have your business plan. There are several types of plans, but you must be able to articulate all your plans together to address specific goals that you want to achieve. Okay, I have seen individuals who have scattered plans. Okay, the plans are just disjointed. And if you don't have plan for life, you cannot measure your progress. That's the truth. If you don't have plan for your life, you cannot measure your progress. So without plan, it's difficult to measure progress, whether in your career, whether in your finance, whether in your business, in any area. Okay, if you don't have that plan, definitely you cannot measure your progress. And the measure of your progress must be based on the milestone you've set for yourself. And let me narrow this down to us as professionals. Plan is good with time. One of the biggest mistakes we also have in mind is we always think that we cannot plan after some time. We feel like, oh, time is gone, we can't plan. Yes, it's good to plan at the beginning of everything you want to do, but if you realize that you don't have a plan in the middle of anything you're doing, you can go back to quickly have that plan. There is nothing wrong with that. You can quickly ask yourself, where am I now? How do I plan going forward? It happens to people in business. I mean, if I have business people here listening to me, at times you start some businesses, you don't have plan for them going forward. But at the point you just ask yourself, say, hey, going forward, what are my plans? So planning can be done at any time you realize that you need a plan. So don't ever write it off that since some time has passed, you cannot carry out planning. No, you can always plan, even wherever you find yourself. You can plan for so many things. And in terms of career, I'll just mention something that I strongly believe that people should plan for. First is you must, as an individual, career or no career, have your plan for certain time in life. 5 years, 10 years, what do you want to achieve as per your plan? And practically, there is something I call stakeholder engagement in planning. If you have certain individuals that have very high influence on what you do or impact on what you do, there is need to discuss with them. And I want to also tell you that if you get the wrong stakeholder on your side at the point of planning, that plan may fail on arrival. So you need to be very careful on how you manage stakeholders at the beginning of your plan or at any point when you're planning and executing. So that takes me straight to what's usually, because I'm very mindful of time, to say this, planning and execution is something we talk about for a whole day. The question we should also ask ourselves, apart from having stakeholders, to manage within planning space, is the fact that what are the resource requirements for planning? We do have several people who plan, and they plan as the spirit leads. There's nothing wrong with that. But you must plan resourcefully. What I mean by planning resourcefully are two things. You must know the resources you need at each phase of your plan for you to have effective execution and results, desired results or exceptional results. You must know the resources you need. Another thing is you must know how to get your resources. If you are planning, you don't know the resources you need to achieve the plan, to execute that plan, you may most likely not achieve exceptional results. And that's the more reason plans fail. Plans fail most times because we do not take cognizance of the need for the result or the resources we should put in place, which really doesn't sound good, So this is the part people neglect. Again, another thing that makes planning to fail is a lack of what I call contingency plan.
One of the big changes.
Somebody is in the church or something.
It was Koulibaly picking up the pieces. Girona for Vilena, but
Wait, is there a way you
used his arm to control the ball.
Huh? Okay, let me continue.
Yeah, the person will be muted now.
Okay, thank you. So I was also saying that one of the things that can also help you, that you need to react to is you should have what we call contingency plan, like plan B. Because in planning, you have plan A, you have plan B, plan C. What do I mean by contingency plan? Contingency plan are like fallback plans. If this plan fails, what is the next thing that I should do, in order to continue to move? And of course, if the second plan fails, what is the thing I should do for the third plan to move on? You should have alternatives when planning. At each phase of execution of your plan, you should be able to identify things that can work against that plan and prepare, in terms of alternatives for you to navigate through that because of the exceptional results you want to achieve at the end. So having said all this, let me tailor the whole thing back to a scenario, okay, that you can relate with. There is a plan to commence a particular academic institution. And the essence is to offer practical learning where you don't need to write exam. It's like institution, you don't need to write exam. So the first phase is obtaining approval from the Federal Ministry of Education. Okay, we approach the Federal Ministry of Education, and there is no law that allows such kind of business, to exist. So we had to bring in several stakeholders, and there was an approval that, okay, go ahead and have this. Now, the second phase is the phase of funding, and I'll tell you the plans we had. There was an equity that was already on ground, but it's not sufficient enough to help us execute that phase of that project. So we needed to get funding from equity partners, those who will come and invest. Another plan apart from equity partners coming in is debt, meaning we want to borrow money to execute this. Now, we succeeded in getting investors coming in, showing interest, but the project kept expanding. One thing with plan, please note, your plan is like a living thing. It can change its DNA at any time. So you must be very circumspect in following through. So our plan changed at a point because of a change in scope, the change in our approach to it. So the next thing we did was to say, okay, what are the alternatives we have, in order to help us navigate through this phase, which we have done. And that is the phase where we are now. So what am I trying to say in essence is practically, you need to be forward thinking if you want to execute to achieve exceptional results. Forward thinking in the sense that there is this thing that we don't do, especially in this part of the world. We rely so much on, God forbid, to escape danger and not planning against that danger. I don't know if you understand. So at each point when you're planning everything, yes, God is there for you, but you need to bring in yourself, to apply yourself to that. Again, to achieve exceptional results in planning and execution, you need to know that at times, I'm just looking for the right words to use. At times, you may have time running over your plan. What that means is your plan at certain points may no longer be valid because comparing with what is happening or trending at that time, what you have to achieve at that time may no longer be relevant. So you need to put that at the back of your mind. So I want to advise, going forward, that first, every plan should be documented. That is very important. Every plan you have should be documented. Otherwise, you will not achieve that plan. I do always tell people that whatever you want to achieve, even the Holy Book said you should write it down. So you need to do that. Another thing apart from documentation is thinking through, because a lot of plans are just well documented, beautifully written, but they are not addressing anything. So all these are quite very important for us to put in place. I would like to stop here so that because we need to manage our time. My time is telling me that I'm about 30 minutes exhausted now. So I would like to stop here. Maybe at the point of question and answer, I'll bring in more things. So back to you, Faith. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. There's a lot that you have said and I've put down, which is really making me to think that, are you sure that I want to continue working as an HR person? Because I need to go and look for money. I need to go and look for finances to really fund my plans. Like you made mention of, that we have to be resourceful. While making our plans, we have to put resource at the back of our mind while making our plan. So guys, you must plan resourcefully. So it's not just about pen to paper and writing millions and millions of what to do this year and the next 3 to 5 years and all. But then how do I back my plans with resources? Those conversations, I believe we're still going to have them, whether on this call or even in the next one. We're already making plans for how to answer some of those questions. Thank you so much, Prof. Adeyemi, for sharing very practical approach to making plans. For us on the call, I'm sure you already have questions as you were listening to Prof. Some of us, if you have not written down your questions, I think you should write them down so that you don't forget and it doesn't skip your mind. One top question on my own mind right now is, how do I get funding for my plans? How do I get resources for my plan? I'm sure Prof might not be able to tell us everything about that, but we'll be happy to share ideas when we get back to answer some of our questions. One of the questions I would also like to point to you, Prof, when we get to the Q&A, is how do we de-risk our plans? How we de-risk our plans? I know that you are a risk professional, a risk analyst. So I would like you to put thoughts together on that aspect when we get to the question and answer section. Thank you so much. You've done so well with maximizing our time for us. We will be going to the next segment when we would have our next speaker. I have a deal with him because I was just about to put up his profile and read all his profile to you, but he's begging me not to read his profile. I don't know if you guys agree. So this person is Yemi Faseun, and I've agreed to introduce him as the Chief Talent Officer for YF Talent Partners. Actually, I'm sure he doesn't need introduction. We're just going to bring him up and he will share his perspective on practical approaches to planning for exceptional results. Thank you, YF. It's great to have you on board.
Thank you very much, Faith. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. From anywhere you're listening from, it's good to be on this call. Thank you very much for inviting me. So when Faith shared the structure, the flow, the conversation with me, I was a bit happy because I wasn't going to speak first. And I was also so sure that there'll be some things that I had highlighted to speak about that Yemi will speak about as well. So that I was so sure that my life would be a lot easier coming second to speak rather than being the first person. So Faith, thank you. Thank you for putting me as the second speaker. What it therefore means is that we'll be able to manage time better, and also that I will not need to reiterate all the things that Prof has talked about. So let me, for instance, so that you can know that the spirit is one, like they say in certain quarters, right? The things that I plan to speak about include reflection, and you'll have heard about that. I mentioned structure to planning. I said responsibility around planning. I mentioned resources. I mean, I'm talking about the notes that I took down, resources, milestones, and repositioning. So those were the 6 things that I plan to speak about. And one way or another, Yemi has mentioned some of those things. Maybe I might just share 1 or 2 different perspectives as I run down the notes that I have on the things that I wanted to speak about. So the first part of it that we don't do too well, and I'm thinking more personal than business. I mean, I'm a new businessman. Yemi has been a businessman for a long time. So if he concentrated more on business and I concentrate maybe more on career or the personal individual part of things, you will understand. But again, these are principles that we can apply to both lives, personal life and personal, professional, and our business lives. So the first thing, somebody's trying to speak. Okay, yeah. So the first thing that I'll mention is reflection. Like I said, we probably in planning, we're so excited about a new beginning, a new cycle, a new period, a new phase, a new year. So excited, and we want to jump straight into it and start writing down and planning and all that. But I think the first thing I'll suggest to Ross is to first reflect. Let's spend time to reflect. However, let me quickly say this. If I take 2 or 3 steps backwards, I'll probably say that if anybody is thinking about planning now and execution of goals and objectives or strategies for 2023, the person is about 21 days too late as we speak, right? That is the not so good news of the conversation. If this is the time you haven't thought about it, you're still thinking 2023, what is it going to be about? I still need guide. The not so good news around it is that you are 21 days too late. But the good news is that the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the next best time is now. So it's a bit too late, but it's not too late. So we can still do it now, right? But spend time first to reflect on 2022, and possibly as far back as you can go, especially from a business perspective, especially from a long-term career perspective. Let's not limit our focus of reflection to just last year. So let me say reflect on the past. The plans that we had marshaled out in the past. 2022 as a framework, what went wrong? What did we achieve? How did we achieve them? What were the things that helped us in achieving those plans? We need moments of reflection. Like I said, let's not get carried away emotionally into the possibilities of a new phase, of a new year, of a new beginning, to the point where we forget to reflect on the past. What worked in 2022 according to your business plan, according to your personal plan, according to your career plan? I was somewhere at an event yesterday, and I put up about a 30-second clip of my presentation at that event on my WhatsApp status. And one guy in Nigeria who has Japan, in the UK responded and said to me, well, thank God I achieved all my own goals. And to put it in his own words, he said, maybe because I was not too ambitious and my goals were very few. The only thing I had on my to-do list for 2022 was to Japa. And YF, I'm speaking to you now from the UK. So as far as he was concerned, reflecting on his 2022, his BHAG, his WIGS, the WIGS, the wildly important goal for him, the big, hairy, audacious goal for him was to leave Nigeria, to go and study abroad and relocate ultimately, and that happened for him. So we talked about it a bit in reflective mode, kind of what worked and what didn't work. So we need to look at our reflection process, not only from career, not only from business, but I think all around us, 360. You know, we are all a makeup of several dimensions. There is a spiritual side to us, there is the health side to us, the relationship side, the family side, the career side, the business side. All around us, 360, we need to spend time to reflect around what worked and what didn't work. And that probably will give us an idea of the things to stop doing, start doing, and continue doing around our plans for a new year. Because, you know, if we get into it straight up, if we get emotional and we start again and write it down, let it run, the vision is for an appointed time and all that. If we get straight into it, we'll do the same old in another year, in another cycle, and we are likely to get the same results if we do the same old. But if we're looking to get different results, exponential results out of our endeavors in this new year, then I'm calling for moments of reflection first. That should be the start. What worked? Like I said, what didn't work? What can we do better? And it must be around all the things that Yemi talk about. Our reflection must be around everything and the different dimensions of our life. Because if we concentrate on just the career aspect of things, we are likely to see that the other dimensions of life are left behind. And like I said, we are holistic. We are about many things. We are in different dimensions. So let's not, as a career person, just talk about career. I want to get promoted. I want to become C-suite. I want to become a middle level manager. That's my goal and all that. But if the health side of things is suffering, if the financial side of things is suffering, if the personal relationship side of things is suffering as well, then we might ultimately achieve that one area that we focus on. But believe me, it might not lead to satisfaction eventually. So let's look at reflection from those dimensions. The second thing I'll say around our plan is please put a structure to it. After reflection, now we need to have a structure around our planning, because structure helps us to develop processes that will lead to execution. So put a structure around your plan. Again, if it's a business, if it's personal, if it's career, if it's relationship, if it is health, put a structure to it. Let me give you an example. For instance, I want to lose weight. Of course, you know I don't want to lose weight. Everybody knows I don't want to lose weight. But I want to be, let's say I want to be healthy. I want to join the Fit Farm family this year. I have to put a structure around that. There has to be a process to what I am going to do in the next 12 months and break that down into possibly periodic moments in the year, maybe quarterly or monthly. And then what exactly am I going to do around that particular BHAG? So there must be a structure to it. Please, if you're not speaking, just mute your mic.
Yeah, please, if you're not speaking to us, do mute, please.
Yes, we know that also be addressed, but you can mute your mic, please.
Teacher Larry, would you mute your mic?
Thank you. Please, I mean, there's some reasons why you need to be careful when you're online on events like this. You just don't want your the audience will hear some of the private conversations that you're having. So please be careful how you manage your mic and all of that. Thank you very much. Okay, so I was talking about structure. So what structure allows us to do is to have processes around your plans so that it becomes a bit easier, therefore, for execution. Because it's not just important for you to write that overarching goal or vision and say that's what I want to achieve. We need to break it down to give it structure that allows us to therefore monitor progress over a period of time. As it is for businesses, so for individual, personal, and career goals as well. For instance, let me break it out from a career perspective. I want to become a certified HR professional, for instance, in 2023. What does that really mean? Don't just write it down as a goal and say, oh, I'm going to run with that. No, put a structure around it. A structure that will allow you to go through a process of execution and to help you to walk back in terms of monitoring activities, tasks that must be done to execute. So the first thing you want to do is to enroll, maybe for classes, an organization that will work with you so that you can achieve that certification, CIPM or any of the other certifications that you might want. You need to have an idea to put a structure around what you're going to do and when. So your structure is about the what and the when. In the course of a new year, a new phase, a new cycle, there must be structure around your plans for easy execution and easy monitoring. The next thing I have written here is to say that please, ab initio, let me say it now, the world doesn't owe you anything. I have said this in some circles and everybody is looking at me and saying, what are you saying? But that's the reality. Nobody owes you anything. The plans that you're going to have for the next 11 months and 10 days now, you've got to take responsibility, full responsibility for execution and for results. Don't rely on your line manager. Don't rely on the economy. Don't rely on Buhari. Don't rely on whoever wins the next Nigerian general election. You have to take full responsibility for the outcomes of the plans that you're going to have for your business, for your career, for your personal area of life, and even spiritual. Whatever growth areas you are planning for in 2023, can I just say that please do not outsource the responsibilities for execution to another party. You've got to hold yourself accountable for the outcomes that you're expecting. Nobody owes you anything, like I said, and you can't outsource anything. You can't outsource any part of it. I totally, and this is me going to the next thing after responsibility. I totally agree with Yemi when he says that we need to be mindful of the resources that we will need for our plans to come to fruition. We are not an island. I take that, but remember what I said, by ultimate responsibility lies with us. But we need to know that in all our plans, whatever they are, we must also be mindful of the resources that we will need for execution. Nobody wants to put his or her hand in the plow without first understanding the cost of it. So the understanding the cost is outlining the resources that you will need for execution. So who are you going to need the support of your spouse, for instance, if you want to go on a fit farm journey? Of course, you will. If you want to be certified, for instance, do you need maybe an accountability partner who is a friend or who's another professional on the platform that we are talking on right now? Maybe somebody who will hold you and say, oh, what are you doing? Have you registered? Are you attending your classes? I mean, you need resources around you. You need financial resources, right? And you need to be careful that you have specific resources attached to each of the goals so that you can ultimately execute. So whilst you maintain ultimate responsibility and accountability for execution, please note that you are not an island. You are within an ecosystem. So what resources are you therefore going to need so that you can have, so that with your full chest at the end of the year, you can say that I had 7 things written down and I was able to effectively execute 4 or 5. And this is where I'm going to say, hey, don't feel too bad if at the point of reflection, you didn't achieve all your 10 goals of last year. It's okay. We're all becoming. It's a journey, right? It's okay to have carryover. And that's the reason we have that system of education. If you don't pass that course last semester, you can carry it over to another semester because life itself is a going concern. So even if it's business, it's a going concern, whatever it is. So don't feel too horrible. Don't beat yourself too hard. If you didn't meet all your goals of last year, you can carry them over to this year. And if at the end of this year, you've reflected, you have a structure around it, you maintain responsibility, you have resources with you, and you still find yourself at the point where maybe you didn't achieve anything, it's okay, right? It's okay. Again, it's a time for reflection and then to move on again and find out what worked and what didn't work. Have milestones for your goals, for your plans, for your vision, for whatever you want to achieve. There has to be, you've got to have milestones along the journey. If you're going to Lagos, if you're going to Ibadan now, Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, after every 10 kilometers, I think, there are milestones. And what that allows you to do is to measure how far you are going on the journey. So for me, if I'm going to Ibadan and I get on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, I know that once I'm past all the madness of Lagos, it's an hour to Lagos. So when I say 60 kilometers to Ibadan, that suggests to me 60 minutes. Like in about an hour, I'll get to Ibadan. As I go along the journey and I see 40 and I see 30 and I see 20, I'm measuring how far I am going on my journey. So you've got to have milestones. Don't have your milestones all packed at the end of the year. No, you've got to have milestones along the journey towards a final review at the end of the year. So please have milestones. And can I also say that in addition to milestones, you need to do periodic review, right? Those goals may be totally well crafted at the beginning of the year. Those plans may be well written out, business plan, personal plan, financial plan, and all of that. But hey, life happens to all of us. There are what I call uncontrollable intervening variables. They will happen at different times in the course of the year. You will have done your assumptions, you will have read the Harvard Business Review, you will have read the Economist, you will have read so many things to impact or to direct your goals in different areas. But ultimately, maybe last year, we probably didn't know there was going to be a war between Ukraine and Russia. And is it impacting us in terms of the goals that we set for last year? Absolutely. So those are uncontrollable intervening variables that I talked about. And in our different areas of planning for our career, planning for our profession, planning for our progress, for families, for business, in those different areas, we also need to know that there might be those variables that will come. And that's the essence of what they're saying on a monthly basis or quarterly basis, half-yearly basis, we need to do a review. For those who are in the, how do I put it now? At some point in your career journey, if you sit at certain meetings, you will know that businesses tend to do a quarterly review. So at the end of quarter one, we will do a review of the quarter and a forecast of the remaining 3 quarters. So we call it 3 + 9, i.e. 3 months gone by, 9 months in view. At the end of June, we'll do a 6 + 6, which is 6 actual, how has it been? How far have we gone? What do we need to change or tweak? And when it is end of September, we'll do a 9 + 3. 9 months in review and then the remaining 3 months in forecast. That's the same way we need to have a kind of review structure around our plans and our goals so that we can successfully monitor towards execution. So when the external variables are impacting your goals, it is okay to dump some goals. It is okay for us to tweak some goals, and it is perfect for us to have new goals as well. We can have new goals in the course of the year. The fact that it didn't occur to us now in January for the business or for the individual doesn't mean that, hey, you can't think about it. I have so many friends so many young colleagues who said at the last quarter of last year, I need to do my certification. And they started. They didn't think about it at the beginning of the year. And they started, and they concluded by December. So it's okay during your periodic review to tweak your goals, to dump your goals, and to have new goals for execution. And this is going to be based on what Yemi first talked about, monitoring the environment. You've got to monitor the external environment and all the things that will impact your goals. And the last thing for me is repositioning. One of the things that we can't do is to divorce ourselves as individuals from our goals. We are part of the journey. We are part of the process. So at times, it may call for business repositioning around our goals. At times, it may call for relocation. It may, if you're in a toxic environment, and you know how big I am on the issue around leadership and culture, if your goal is to be at a certain level or certain organization and it's not working for you, I'm always advising that you plan your exit. That's part of repositioning. You can reposition yourself from a financial perspective, reposition yourself from your habits, reposition yourself from the things that you have control over that will help you ultimately achieve your goals. So if I could do a kind of recap, I'm also very conscious of time. I'll say that what I have talked about is, number one, reflection. Reflect on 2022 or the past. What worked, what didn't work, what are you going to do better? What opportunities did you miss? What opportunities did you take advantage of? Put a structure around your goals so that you can ultimately cascade into processes, tasks, and responsibilities for execution. Take responsibility. The world owes you nothing. You've got to take responsibility for your own plans towards execution. You're going to need resources around you. Identify those resources and start building solid relationships that will help you in the execution of your goals. Like I said, you are not existing in a vacuum. You are in an ecosystem. So what resources do you need? At times, you see that boss that you called an ogre, at times it might be just that boss that you need for a successful career in 2023. So identify your resources and make sure that you are fully aligned to take advantage of those resources. Number three, you have milestones around your plans for this year. Milestones remind us of how far we are going on the journey. It reminds us that, oh, okay, we've done some, then there are some things to be done. Periodic review, extremely important because of what I call uncontrollable intervening variables. You are able to understand the environment, scan the environment, how it's impacting you, your macro environment, your micro environment, how they're impacting your goals. And lastly, the full realization of your plans for this year might mean that you will reposition yourself. And I'm not talking of physical relocation only. I'm talking of repositioning your mindset. I'm talking of repositioning yourself in terms of your relationships. I mean, there was a video I put up on Instagram a couple of about 2 weeks now. It says that not everybody who started the journey of life with you will continue with you. You need to realize that, like the rocket, that was the analogy the guy gave as I ran now, like the rocket at takeoff, right? There are some things that are considered hangers on, right? But when it is at full blast and it's about to sail to wherever, it drops some weight. That's part of repositioning. Some things are going to be needed around some individuals, some things, some resources are going to be needed. And you might need to reposition yourself around so many things so that you can achieve your goals. So your goals are not outside of you. You are part of your goals. And if you're doing certain things, certain habits, certain behaviors that will not allow you to achieve full execution of your plans this year, I'll say that you should reposition yourself mentally, physically, financially. Just reposition yourself so that you can ultimately do a review by end of this year and say, yes, I can take at least 5 out of my 7 plans for execution, and I can see that I succeeded. Thank you very much, Faith. That's why I'm going to stop this evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My note is full. My notes is full. I just kept on writing and writing. And I can tell that a lot of us would be writing that much as well. And I'm sure there are going to be questions, or most likely there are none, maybe because YF and Prof have answered all the questions in our minds before we came. But let's see. I don't know if there are questions. While the conversation was going on, there's a lot of notes I took, but I like how you started around reflections, repositioning, thinking about relationships and resources and all. I think that was quite a good place to start from, and then looking at our relationships, looking at various dimensions of reflection, how the previous period has been, and how to take steps forward. A lot that you shared. I like where you spoke about the ultimate responsibility of my plan resting with me. That's sort of, it's like a double-edged sword, right? Like, okay, yeah, I have control over this. I got this. But at the same time, it's like, with or without me, it looks like if I'm not holding this ship, it's not going to sail. I think from that perspective, I would like to take a question from there. If I have a plan and the plan is really big, and I need so many people, maybe not too many, but a few people that can support me in making this plan work. But then I have ultimate responsibility over this plan. How do I choose my stakeholders? How do I choose my stakeholders to make sure that this plan works? Yes, I have responsibility over it. I'm supposed to make sure it happens anyways, right? But how do I choose my stakeholders to ensure that my plan works out?
Okay, so I mean,
my question is not.
No, it's clear. It's actually clear. I mean, wisdom is profitable to direct. So when we say that you're going to need resources, you're going to need other people, you are going to rely on experience. You're going to rely on past transactions, right? Before you can forecast, you must have data. So before you can say that I'm gonna have Yemi in my corner for this particular goal, it must be based on, number one, intuition, number two, data. Your interaction with Yemi over the years will suggest to you that that's the individual that you need, right? And if you're not comfortable, if data doesn't suggest to you that relationship, I'm talking about myself now, that relationship with me will yield positive result, then you start looking for alternatives. So that is part of counting the cost. Before you put your hand in the plow, you've got to count the cost. That's part of it. And it is, like I said, it's number one, intuition. Yeah, at times we don't have data. We just go with our gut feel. I just think this individual. Let me give you an example. So when I started the entrepreneurial journey, I got a gig from an organization that said to me, hey, I mean, let's train over 500 people, managers across Nigeria, 5 locations, over a 90-day period. I could have done it myself, but it was going to be a lot of work. And then I decided, no, this wasn't going to work. The client said, no, we want only you to do it. But I said to them, no. It will be too stressful, and it will stretch the organization and myself. Maybe we'll not be able to achieve that in about the 90-day period that we wanted to do it. And I said, okay, you know what? I have 3 individuals who I have worked with over the years, and I can recommend them to you so that we all work together on this project. And then I called up the 3 individuals, and all 3 individuals say, yes. Happy to work with you on this project. And we went through it. Guess what? We did it in less than 90 days projected. And the value out of the project was so good that the client decided to institutionalize that particular program.
Wow.
So, I mean, I could have said that, no, I mean, let me try and do it all alone. I will try 90 days and all that, but I realized that I couldn't do that. So what resources? It will be based on one experience with the individuals that I want to recommend. It will be based on past interactions. So we all have people within our ecosystem who we know will be partners in progress. We also know individuals who we know that, no, we can't work with them in this particular area. Again, based on past experiences. So number one, your intuition will lead you. to decide your resources, especially human resources that you will need, and also your data from past experiences will suggest to you it is A, not B, it is X, not Y. That's what I think.
Data from past experiences. Thank you so much. I hope Egmo, is on the call. Great. I still want to pick up on the data on past experiences, right? And I just want to highlight something to some of us on the call. I think that also tells how we should relate with people in our ecosystem. Because if you're looking for opportunities, it is not when you need an opportunity that you begin to behave well, quote and unquote, to get that opportunity. People would always make reference to past experiences and past interactions. So if there's anything that we're going to take away from this call today, that should be one of them. Your relationships, how people perceive you, how you're helpful to people. They would always remember when they have the need for your service or your resourcefulness. Thank you so much. Prof, I'd like to take you on the conversation. I mean, I said something earlier on about de-risking your plan. There was something that YF made mention of, and I think I wrote it down. That's the ultimate, I'm looking for it now, the, the variables that you do not have control over. I wrote it down somewhere. Let me just pick it out. And that spoke about sorry, someone wants to help me?
Uncontrollable intervening variables.
Yes, yeah, so uncontrollable intervening variable. Thank you very much. So those uncontrollable intervening variables, factors that are beyond your control, that's a simple way that we understand it. YF English wants to confuse us. How do we de-risk our plans? How do we, yes, I heard you don't have too many plans. I mean, don't wish the world and all of that. Make it simple. I like the guy that jackpot. It was just his single goal. He wanted to jackpot and he achieved it. But again, we are, encouraged to dream wide, think big, have big visions and all of that. If we want to be great, we should have great plans, yes. But how do we de-risk these plans? How do we ensure that even if it's not 100%, right? You know, there's that review we would do that you would drop some, pick up new ones, you know, that you would do in the course of the year, your 6 month, your 9 month review, where you'd make those changes. But at the beginning, how do we de-risk our plans? Prof.
Okay, thank you. I think first is to define what a risk is. According to ISO 27001, risk is any phenomenon, activity, standard, place, people, circumstance that has the potential to alter a set goal relative to probability of occurrence and the impact. That's the global definition I just gave, according to ISO International Standard Organization. Now, in de-risking so many things in life around the planning and execution, for example. Let me tell you, like Obayagman would say, prestissimo, that you cannot succeed at any time predicting risk accurately. It cannot happen. Why? You can put everything in place to prevent a risk from happening, but another risk may show up that you did not even plan for. So how do you really de-risk events? I mean, let me pick the English of YF in my own simple term, you know, looking at what you did not plan for happening eventually in the line of life or event. How do you? First is one, you should have a proactive mindset, you know, knowing that in the course of executing this plan, anything can happen. I'll give a case in point, and that is the case of COVID. Nobody knew COVID will happen. Nobody knew we're going to hit that iceberg in our journey on the high sea of life called life. So nobody could have planned for it. And in fact, I want to even tell you that that particular year, we had a plan in place with a particular organization that, see, these are the risks you're likely going to face this year. So you have to prepare. They prepared for that risk. The another bigger risk, which was COVID, came up, which was not prepared for. So how do you de-risk? First is to first know that risk is a futuristic event that will happen. Whether you like it or not, we are all facing risk. As we are talking now, there is risk happening now, all of us. You know, risk is everywhere. So the first thing is to have an open mind, you know, in terms of tracking events that are going in terms of execution of your plan. The second thing is to always have what we call scenario play in mind. That will really help you. Scenario play is when you do a lot of predictive analytics in terms of risk. And there is a part of risk management that says risk is not necessarily bad thing happening, but good thing not also happening. Nothing bad was happening, but nothing good was also happening. So that can also be another dimension of definition of risk. So if you have your plan you're working with, nothing bad was happening, but you're not achieving your plan, definitely that is bad enough for you. Now, how do you de-risk that? You need a lot of information gathering. You need a lot of simulation analysis. You need to do lots of simulations, and then you need to do a lot of contingency planning at every point of your execution. You need to have contingency plans in place. If this thing fails, just ask yourself this question: what will I do? If this plan fails, what next would I do? That's one of the ways of de-risking. But the use of information is very, very important. Information is life if you want to execute your plan effectively and efficiently. If you run away from information, when you're executing, totally it will fail. Lastly, to really talk about de-risking, creating a kind of de-risking system around your plan and execution, I want to tie it back to what I've said. Relationship is important, but in risk management, there is something we have in mind, and it's in line with what Bob Marley said. Your best friend can become your worst enemy. Your worst enemy can become your best friend. Meaning your best case can become your worst case tomorrow morning in risk management. The best that you have in your hand today can turn to the worst in the next 30 minutes, in the next 1 hour. So the question is, if this thing flips, how do I get myself going? And that is what brings us to, in every plan you have to execute very well, make sure you have what we call business continuity and disaster recovery plan. I don't know how to simplify it. The business continuity is that process you put in place that if everything falls, what will be the last thing that will keep me going? That is, we must treat life as a business, even in planning. So how do we get things going? And disaster recovery planning is, okay, if there is disaster, how do I recover and move on? Because, I also agree with wife strongly, life is a continuum. We continue to move on. Whether you fall, whether you break, whether you just have to keep moving. But something must keep you moving. And that is that personal instinct that you have. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prof. That looks like another mini MBA, right? The business continuity and disaster recovery plan. I love the bit that we should treat life as a business. It's spot on. We should treat life as a business, not that we just want to wake up and faff around and expect a miracle to happen. Yes, miracles do happen. I was having a conversation with my husband earlier this morning, and we're talking about how people really want to be great in life. And there is no plan to how they want to be great. They just want to wake up being great. And being on this course today, I believe, is one of the steps that most of us have taken towards greatness. The next thing to take would be to action some of the learnings that we've gathered on this call today. Treat life as a business. Every day of profitability is moving you into your desired greatness. And profitability not necessarily means making more money, but of course, money is important. But if you're hinging towards your goals, if you're making more great relationships that are helpful to your life and your future, you're being profitable. So make every day profitable. and we will get there. Thank you so much, Prof. I'm still expecting questions from us. If you want to ask me privately, that's great. If you want to share on the general page, that would also be great. There's a question that is here, Prof. And why, if you can also jump in. Well, we've spoken about stakeholders, and we've spoken about being resourceful, having people that would core our plans. And why, if you've spoken about work relationships, the boss that is the ogre, right? If one of your stakeholders, you call stakeholders as maybe someone that is a financier, in this case, a financier, and that person is one of those that is making your life difficult. Let's say this is not a scenario, it's a real situation. And this person is making your life difficult mentally, such that they speak down on you and all of that. But they are a major financier in this project that you're on, right? How do you manage? Looking at the fact that you want to succeed, you do not want to fail in this project, and your major stakeholder, your financier, is not a great guy, is making life tough for you, making life difficult. You don't even want to think about having meetings with them, but then you have to have meetings with them. How do you manage? How do you navigate while not dropping this plan? Because you really want to arrive at the destination. And in this case, most likely maybe just one of your top 3 plans. And for the year, how do you manage this?
Okay, so the first expression that came to my mind is that you need to arrive alive. You want to arrive, but first arrive alive, right? But let me say that there are 2 sides to it. We don't want to buckle at the first sight of pressure. I still believe in adversity quotient. Despite the fact that it is a currency that is not too available in today's world, right? But that's the reality. Life, nobody promised us that life was going to be a dance party, right? So there will be circumstances that will stretch us, that will be adverse to or contrary to our willingness to fly. Those things will happen. It might be at home, it might be at work, it might be anywhere. This is just an example, being the box. But the point is, we still need to learn to go through life with a good dose of adversity quotient. So we preach emotional intelligence a lot. Emotional quotient in addition to intelligence quotient and all that. Adversity quotient is another. And it built on, there's this saying that that came to my mind. I said something, I think about 2018 or 2019. Not all mountains will disappear. We will have to climb some mountains. And when you climb a particular mountain, whether big or small, and then you succeed, it adds muscles to you. And you can see other mountains and say, hey, man, I've been here before. I did it, I can do it again. But if we're at the point where we want to pray it away or pray the mountain out so that our life can be, if you know the ECG thing, life is never a straight line. You must climb mountains and come down again, go on the journey, climb mountains and come down again. So maybe that's a mountain you got to climb. That's number 1. Number 2, however, is that we need to know when to call it quits with such relationships. Because whether we like it or not, we need to arrive alive. And you and I know a couple of people in certain relationships, even work relationships, who didn't arrive alive. That's the reality. Yeah. Some went into depression, some went into serious health challenges and all that. When it gets to the point where, excuse me, it's looking like there might be alternatives to life, then we should look at those alternatives. I hear you say financier and all that. It doesn't mean that that's the only individual who could finance that particular project or career or goal. I think it was Babangida who said when he said there was no alternative to SAP in 1986, I think, SAP, somebody said that's a structural adjustment program. Somebody said, no, it can't be. Even life, there's an alternative to life. So there must be alternative that we must consider. And that's where Yemi first mentioned the issue of resources available on your journey towards execution. You can't limit yourself to only one choice. If you do that, you have entered one chance. You must constantly review options available to you, right? So, like I said, don't run away at the first sight of it. Try and go through it, manage it, understand it, learn from it, build muscles along your journey. But when it comes to the point where, no, it's not working, it's threatening your own very existence or your mental wellness, then it's time to look for alternatives. Or maybe it's time to change your plans. Maybe that's not just going to work. Someday it's going to work. So there's going to be that wisdom to know for how long I can go and when I'm going to put a foot in the sand and say, hey, no more. It's not happening. So stay in that relationship for as long as you can, but plan your exit as soon as you can.
I like that. Stay in that relationship for as long as you can, but plan your exit as soon as you can. I like your rhythm. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Prof, I could see you at the edge of the table. I'm sure you really want to put something in there. Thank you. You want to put in some words? Yeah. You are mute.
Looks like the network is dragging a bit.
Yeah, I think so.
I think like the YFI said, treat life like a business. Okay.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yes, super now.
Okay
Now.
Okay, thank you. Now, like I said earlier, I think YF said quite a lot of things. Not all mountains will melt, not all mountains will move, not all mountains will disappear. And I think it's good for mountains not to even move at times for you, to learn some lessons, to know how to acquire experience in quarry on how to break some mountains, okay? Yes. Because definitely, in addition, there will be some mountains that you won't be able to climb. You have to scatter them, okay? You just want to. But note this, like I said, treat life as a business. One, there are certain relationships. I've been in a situation where you mentioned we had a financier for a project, or let's even leave the financier. You can even have career sponsors. You can have people that, at some point, the things are not moving the way you expect. That doesn't mean that there can be a redefinition of the DNA of that relationship. That's the truth. I've seen the worst pattern becoming the best of reconnection. I've seen the worst pattern becoming the best of reconnection, and a lot of better things that comes along. However, I believe in arriving safely. Whatever is within your throat that will not make you to breathe will either go out or go down, And of course, you choose where it goes. You have a choice in every relationship, no matter how much you are pushed to the edge. Business, meeting with people, at least you have a choice. You have certain decisions you can take. You have certain positions you can stand in. But one of the things you should always put at the back of your mind is to have an open mind. The fact that every no can bring you closer to a yes, and every yes may be pushing you to a stupid no or no to you. You just have to track your instincts and also walk along, as your mind leads you. Open your mind to learn when you fail, but of course, don't learn the same thing the second time. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. Yeah. Open your mind to learn, apply the learning, but be careful not to learn the same thing the second time, because there are some lessons that the second lessons you may not survive it. So, and that again, goes in line with what YF said, that yes, stay in the relationship as much as possible, but again, your exit should not be negotiable when it's quite very important. Exits can be a blessing to a greater place.
Wow. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, sir. And I really hope we can close this in the next couple of minutes. We have some questions already here. Some we have shared, and we've taken, we've addressed them. This one says, when you've prepared for mitigating the risk and obstacles. How does one stay committed to executing his or her plan? How do you stay committed to executing your plans after you have de-risked, you have mitigated all the obstacles? How do you stay committed? You know, a lot of things are happening in this life. How do you stay committed to your plan?
Okay, is that for me?
Okay, so I think you can take it and then YF can speak on it if he would take. Yeah.
Yeah, risk is a living thing. That's the truth. In fact, in risk management, permit me for just a few minutes to educate you in risk management. There's what we call inherent risk and residual risk. Inherent risk exists before you apply control. Residual risk exists after you have applied control, meaning even the extent of your control can give room for one small tiny risk that can blow down the whole thing. You know, now, even having applied all you need to apply in terms of de-risking, mitigating your risk and all that, there's something we call emerging risk. They are unusual and they happen in life. Is VUCA itself. Life is volatile. Life is uncertain. Life is complex. Life is ambiguous. So in managing risk that has to do with your planning and execution, always have it in mind that life is VUCA itself, and the DNA of life can be redefined by what you don't even expect. So what will keep you committed is that end goal. But again, if that end goal is not achievable, please just use your eraser to rewrite it. Nobody will kill you for rewriting what you cannot achieve now. Stay alive to achieve it tomorrow. That's from me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Wife?
I was looking for something that I had some time. Now that Yemi mentioned book, I'm just looking for something that's like an antidote for VUCA.
Yeah, that response to VUCA.
Yeah, I think for V, it's vision.
Yeah.
I can't remember what U is and C.
I think let me see.
But I mean, if I find it before we shut down, I'll say, I think number one for me is also discipline. Discipline is extremely important to stay the course. Remember we said that we're always going to monitor the environment, but the environment is not going to be, it's not just going to be static and waiting for you to execute your plans. Things that you have absolutely no control over will happen, but you also need the discipline to stay the course. You see some people, my boss asked me why I was there, it affected my mental health. I'm going to resign. You know what I mean? We've got to also be disciplined around the things that we said we were going to do. So, like Yemi said, life itself is risk. And don't forget that not taking a risk is actually riskier. We all are going through risk. The fact that accidents happen doesn't mean that we cannot or we should not drive again. Accidents will always happen, but we can't stop driving. Yeah. So for
vision,
for VUCA is vision, understanding, clarity, and agility. Exactly.
Awesome.
So we've got to be in this space to be able to therefore manage all those variables that will come at us, whether from the boss, from the environment, from wherever, from the economy. All of a sudden you wanted to pay for your school fees, and I'm not even saying Japa, you want to do something online and you had planned for it to be at 550 to the USD, and before the end of last year at some point it got to 850. What are you going to do? Discipline, because evaluate options, look at resources available, all the things we've talked about, right? But there's only one thing that's very important in terms of our plans for execution. Discipline is extremely, extremely important, in addition to the reverse side of VUCA that you put out there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. There is a possibility that you can redefine the DNA of life and the DNA of plan in itself. I think that sort of puts a lot of possibilities in mind. So you don't think that, oh, I'm just going to be stuck, or oh, this is not happening, so I'm stuck. There's a question I'm trying to pick up, and I'm having a difficulty with it on my WhatsApp page. So if you can please post it on this page, on the chat page, that would be very helpful. Yes, please. I'm trying to pick it out. I'm having a difficulty of picking it out. Okay, there it is. There it is. Okay. Is it advisable to align your goals with those identified by your job or organization, or should you create one that is independent of it, even if it is the same? Okay, this is from the from our YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your contribution. So this question says, is it advisable to align your goals with those identified by your job or company or your employer, or should you create one that is independent, or should it just be the same?
They can be complementary. From my perspective, they can be complementary. I mean, if you work in an environment 8 to 5, whether virtual or physical, right? But if it's remote, you clock in on every morning and then you clock out. If you go to work, you go on Terminal B for 2 hours in the morning and you spend how many hours? That's an ecosystem that you should leverage on. I don't think we should ignore that particular environment at all for the actualization of our goals, especially if they relate to career goals. A lot can be learned. I mean, let me tell you what I have said before. I've said to individuals who are always looking for mentors. I think enough of getting on LinkedIn and looking for people to be my mentor and all that, and sending them messages that so many of them don't respond to. You're first and foremost your mentor. You are a mentor to yourself, primarily. You've got to understand that. Remember what I said about responsibility and accountability. You retain the responsibility for the actualization of your own goals and plans, right? Ultimately. So you are your own mentor. The second person who should be your mentor is your boss. All the things we say about ogres and toxic bosses and all that, at the end of the day, when you wake up in the morning, until you exit that ecosystem, you are working with that individual. You still have a lot to learn, a lot to gain, a lot to do with that particular individual for as long as you're in that organization. So don't think that, oh, because maybe the environment is toxic and all that, so I'm going to have alternative plans outside my organization. You still don't do alternative plans on the 30th of every day when you collect your salary. Your plan is still within that organization. You better get as much as you can. For as long as you're in that organization, please get the best out of it and give your best to it.
That's
it should be a symbiotic relationship until the last day of exit. So leverage on that ecosystem, leverage on your organization, leverage on your peers, leverage on your colleagues. And you know, so many of us, some people are looking for Miss Right or Mr. Right. The first thing I ask is be the right person first. So some of us are saying, oh, my environment is XYZ. Question is, who are you within that environment as well? So it's we need the environment to feed off us positively as much as we are feeding off positively from the environment as well. However, you can have complementary plans outside your organization. You can have other people. So having said that, you are your mentor, your boss is your mentor. Yeah, you can reach out to other people to be your mentor. But the point is, don't forget, whatever Yemi says to you, or Gino School, or all the great mentors who might be on the call, or Faith, whatever they say to you over a weekend period, on Monday morning, who are you going to go work with? Your boss, your colleagues, right? So you can't totally divorce them as dependables on your journey towards the execution of your plans. They've got a part to play. However, you can have supplementary or complementary plans in addition to what you have within your organization.
Thank you so much, wife. And thank you so much, Prof Yemi. This is I don't want to say truckload, right? It's a full dosage of all it takes, I believe, for us to succeed, not just in 2023 and beyond. I like the bit of the symphony, the symbiotic relationship that should exist between your work and your life. For me, I would prefer that symphony. Let that synchronization occur. Let it be that you're not living a double life, right? The kind of life you want to live it to the fullest in all the dimensions, your workplace, at home, with your friends, at church or the mosque. And let it be one good and great life, Right. Thank you so much. Thank you, YF, again. Thank you, Prof. And thank you to HR Pro Leverage for making this happen. It's a beautiful day, and thank you all for joining. We're going to call it a day from now. Next month, we're going to have same call, and we'll talk about resourcefulness and financial access to, what you require to make your plans happen. Join us again next month. Thank you, everyone, for joining this call, and have a great evening.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye.
Thank you, Ma. Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Mr.